Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Paranoid. My name is John Rodriguez.
I am Luke, aka Spooky Luke.
Spooky Luke. And so today's episode, we're going to. Okay. The topic is going to be the mud flood and Tartaria. But obviously, that's like a very deep subject, and where we don't have the amount of time to really cover everything in depth. So we're going to try to paint things with broad strokes and sort of just explain everything, excuse me, in a general way. Just because it's a cool subject and it's something really interesting that might or might not have happened in our history. So I just want to ask Luke, do you know anything about this subject at all, or what, if anything, what do you know?
What's my knowledge level? My
Yeah.
knowledge level is pretty kind of small. Pretty
Okay.
small knowledge levels here
Okay.
on this subject.
I don't know very much either. I know like the surface level stuff. When we decided what we were going to be talking about, I kind of did a little deep dive, and I've been listening to like podcasts and watching videos on YouTube, and there's so much stuff.
It's crazy.
There's so much stuff. The people, the civilization, the stuff they did, the reason why they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
The reason why they were sort of targeted, I guess, by other nations, other people. So I guess we'll get into that a little bit on this episode.
And it's a subject where, we have a subject where it's like UFOs or Sasquatch or something. This is like a whole civilization. So it's got to be broader in scale than some of the other more like, paranormal things out there. So
it's not like one experience or one creature. It's like a whole group of people for a long time, and I guess they did really special things, and so I guess I'll just get right into it. Basically, the Tartarian Empire, or Tartary as it's known, was in Central Asia, and it was in the area of Siberia as well. And it was said that this lost civilization was very advanced in technology and their culture. And basically, they were a culture that could harness like the free energy in the air. They had these sort of like, I don't know if they were bells or what they were, but they were like these round bell-like structures that would kind of go up, and I guess they were conductive, like they might have been copper or something, and conductive to electricity, and they would collect and store energy, and they didn't, it was like this really clean and efficient society, and they had this beautiful architecture, lots of like cut granite, I guess, and what a lot of people are saying, or what I've been reading and listening, a lot of people think that all of the like everywhere, not just in Asia, not just around there, but like all of these huge buildings that were built like in the beginning of the 1900s, like government buildings that are just like massive, huge columns, like, and you're thinking, how did people with horse and buggy build these ridiculous structures, and essentially the conspiracy theory is that these buildings are much older than everyone is saying, because they're saying, oh yeah, they built that in 5 years, or they built that in 10 years, and it's like, how would you,
how does a guy like Prospector Pete look like he has the know-how to build something so magnificent and ancient looking,
dude? And they have these ridiculous columns that are, I don't know how many sections they have going up, but and there's countless numbers of them going around the building. It's like, and those have to be carved out of solid granite, it's, and so the theory is that these buildings were actually Tartarian Empire buildings, and that they've been around longer than they say.
What is the era that Tartaria like existed as a civilization? Like what's that? Does it line up with any other timelines we're familiar with? Like,
so the weird thing about this is, obviously modern day maps don't show this place. It's
Mm,
it's Russia and it's Siberia and I think parts of Mongolia, uh,
oh, okay.
day to day.
Got
But
it.
according to really ancient maps, because in the older maps it would show Tartaria or like
Sure.
Empire of Tartaria or Tartarian Empire, whatever, and it was the whole of Russia and parts of the southern part of Asia,
Yeah.
and it expanded into the Middle East. Like it was huge. It was
Dude,
huge,
that's crazy.
and I guess the whole thing of like how it systemically went disappearing from history and from the maps and stuff. That's where the Great Mud Flood comes in, where basically everything was buried under tons of mud.
What
Oh
the
yeah,
heck?
yeah, Grand Tartaria. There it is. Tartary.
Jeez. So,
And
okay, so a huge
China,
encompassing piece of
India.
land. I mean, it almost looks like it encompasses like the Arctic Circle and part of maybe like Greenland or Iceland when it wrapped around to the other side of the earth.
I mean, it's touching the Arabian nations, and
Hmm.
it's right into Europe, and yeah, it look Japan's on the right. Japan's the only country that's not touched all the way up to there. Like even Korea up
Mm.
there is in
So
it.
it existed like during like ancient China as
Well,
like an empire as well or a civilization as
so
well. And
that's the thing. Uh, they think they existed,
wow.
you know, because
Yeah.
all of these and maps older than this. Even the dude that started the official atlas, like the atlas,
Hmm.
like the I guess whatever. There's a book with everything, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
guy was one of the map. He did one of the first maps with Tartary on that map, and he's like one of the most credible dudes ever because
Mm.
he's responsible for whatever producing maps of the world. Um, so
So
it's just
yeah, he was like an OG Is it cartography? Is that
I'm not sure.
is that
That's
mapping?
You could be right. I don't
Dude,
know.
I hope I
I,
am.
I
I'm usually wrong with a lot
I have no
of
idea,
this
so I won't
show.
comment. But I'll let you sit in that boat by yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna sink in it, I'm sure.
bye. Yeah, I don't know. You could sink or swim. I don't know. You might be right.
Oh, it's a
Um,
shot in the dark either way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
anyway, um, so yeah, and the thing is too, this whole mud flood thing is not just something you see in that area, in that part of the world.
sure.
You see it all, like you'll see or maybe you've even seen it somewhere where you've traveled. Have you ever seen like those little windows that you see pop up from up from the street, and they look like they're like the
Mm,
top eighth of a
kind
window, or the
kind of. I mean, there is some of that in Seattle, but Seattle like it, on record had like a really large fire that burned the city, and then they built a city on top of like the burned
so
sawdust
that's something
garbage
else, right?
city. Yeah, but I know the aesthetic of
But you
that,
know what I'm
and
saying, yeah.
yeah, totally, totally.
So there's a lot of like
Existing like
excavation
architecture.
photos. Yeah, like there's photos of people excavating properties that where you're like, why is this
Why
window,
the hell?
like
Yeah.
this, and it's not. It looks like it should be a full window going down, and they excavate, and turns out there's a whole nother floor down there that is
Oh my,
just buried,
crazy.
with a doorway, archway, everything, and it's
Yeah,
and they that even in the White House, they excavated the White House in the 70s, I believe,
yeah.
or around then, and sure enough, there's architecture down there,
That's crazy.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and it shouldn't, oh well, I don't know, the White House is the White House. I was gonna say it shouldn't be there, but maybe it should. I don't know what they
Sure.
do.
Maybe it's like an easy escape route or something,
Yeah, maybe it's some
or
sort of
like an old
storeroom, I
timey
don't know.
one or something.
Who knows? Yeah. Hey Ramy.
Um,
So I was poking around looking at pictures, right? So when I pulled up the map, there are versions of the $100 bill that purportedly have those windows that you're talking about shown on the back of it
oh,
on
what?
Independence Hall. So if you look at, and not every, there's multiple versions of the back of the $100 bill. Not all of them
Sure.
are that version,
Yeah.
but some of them, the older ones, have a representation of Independence Hall where it has those incomplete windows and doors on the ground level, and like where you're just seeing the top of it.
Weird.
So
There
And
you
it's not
go.
just
and
a cellar door. It
it's
looks like
not
it's
just
like
a
a half.
cellar basement. I look at it and like I like to think I'm a reasonable person. Like I wouldn't know the difference between like
Right.
a window
Yeah.
that's cut off versus a cellar. Like
Yeah.
and like the modern era Independence Hall representations do have like basement
A
or cellar
frame.
window.
Yeah.
There's a frame there, right? And you can see that it like starts and stops. Whereas this older one, it looks like it just goes straight down into the ground. So
Jeez.
it's interesting.
Wow.
So
And
there
that's
is a
the
difference
thing.
between the versions.
Yeah. So this also connects into like the Great Reset, because if everything was flooded and everyone died, and
Yeah.
whoever was left miraculously had to kind of restart everything, and that's where this whole thing goes into them not. I guess that's the theory, at least, of them not being really mentioned anymore in the annals
Yeah.
of history.
So is the flood itself, is it meant to be a like, is it on record as like an extinction level event kind of thing, or is it like
Well,
is it like a paranormal thing where it just like happened out of the
no.
earth came this giant flood and
So I don't know if this is like a biblical story,
yeah.
or if it's like a theory that ties into that type of thing, like, or if it's just a separate event.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. That's just. Uh,
It says I'm looking at some of the notes. Has supposedly wiped out a significant portion of the world's population and buried numerous Tartarian cities under layers of mud.
right.
So like, yeah, you're right. Like that could be like a worldwide, like devastating, thing where it's not just touching
Phenomenon. Yeah.
that land of Tartaria on the map, necessarily.
Right. It's like it happened there, but it happened everywhere else too.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because we have bits and pieces of evidence of buried buildings, and then excavated buildings that have lower levels that aren't occupied, or are not being used, because there are other instances where there's a basement and there's a window, but like Rami said, you could tell that window is meant to be there, as opposed to something got buried and they just paved a new road over it.
Yeah.
Um,
And so,
yeah.
so it looks like some of their buildings were utilized for energy storage as well. Like some of the materials they used were to be used for storing the energy that they were able to create.
Right. And I think that's another reason why, like on a global agenda scale, like maybe that's why the quote unquote elites might not want that info out there, because people pay for energy, they
Yeah,
pay for gas, electricity, and
for sure.
and if there's a way to harness natural electricity from the air just by setting up specific elements or specific materials
Yeah.
that are natural, or that are within reach, something you could go to the store and buy.
Oh,
These are
totally.
things that you could do yourself, and obviously they're not going to want you to know that. So it play you have to really lean into it a little to really believe, I guess, because
Yeah.
it makes sense. Like, if that's a real thing, like, of course they don't want anyone to know about that, because everyone would just do that, and these people wouldn't make any more money.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there appears to be notes about was it an intentional disaster to set back the the ability for them to advance in society like that, like what was it, some sort of like larger like intentional disaster, to kind of throw them backwards in their ability and
Well, there's another theory that has to do with the Great Wall of China, basically saying that the
mm,
wall wasn't built by the Chinese; it was built by the Tartarian Empire to keep
keep
either
flooded water out.
no, well, either keep something in, because they were saying, because the things are
Oh,
point like the defenses are pointing towards China. They're not pointing towards like, it's not like the Chinese built it and then it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the
yeah,
defenses are faced towards the enemy would be the Chinese, if the wall, if you're standing on the wall.
sure,
It's
sure,
not double sided. Like, one side is a certain way and the other side is just regular.
for sure.
Um,
It's
and
fortified on one side and one
yeah,
side is
yeah.
not.
There's like
Yeah,
arrow places, I think, that you can shoot arrows through and stuff,
yeah,
on one side, and then the other side is just regular, architecture, whatever.
yeah, blank
So
space. Yeah,
and so there's another layer
dude,
to that.
that's
Like,
crazy.
what are they? What were they defending against? Like, I guess maybe they were invaded, and also, I think they lived during the time of the Mongolians. That's the last thing I had listened to. I was listening to some pods, and I think what the ones that were left were sort of absorbed into the Mongolian Empire, and
Oh, okay.
the Mongolians actually went by, they called themselves Tartarian,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and I think a lot of the Europeans also called the Mongolians Tartarian,
Hmm.
but the real and then I think the Mongolians ended up mixing with the Turkish, like the Turk side of Asia,
Sure.
and they adopted more Turkish things. So
Wow.
eventually, it all blended into Turkish, but um,
Whoa,
it's all
crazy.
kind of it all stems from there, from a place that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I mean it does sit in that area where as the territory starts to get broken up over time, I guess you see like different cultures pop out of what could have been one gigantic culture. Um,
And not only that, but winners write history. So
yeah,
if they were taken out by, I don't know, Russians or Mongolians or whatever,
sure. Yeah.
they're just going to put their name over their land, and then that's how the history is now. Like that's our
Yeah.
land, and whatever was there before isn't there anymore.
It's crazy. I'm looking through some note stuff, and it's crazy how many like structures, like it's like not even just structures, it's like cities full
The
of
architecture,
architecture
dude.
that's under the earth, like stuff that's like clearly like, whoa, why, like it's not just like
Yeah.
one or two buildings that were built on a hillside or something, and eventually got covered up. Like it seems to be that there's large sections of what was inhabited, like structural, like domiciles
And,
and
and are you talking about in Asia,
marketplaces.
or are you talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
everywhere?
Well, I'm talking about I mean, it looks like it's all over too, but
Yeah.
between like Russia, Asia, Siberia, or what we know is
Dude,
that.
there's places in Ohio that are like
Yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know? So I
Yeah,
don't
it
know if
says it says worldwide,
yeah,
so um yeah,
that's the
it's
gnarliest thing, dude. Because there's like whole cities beneath our feet, and no one knows, I guess.
yeah, I mean, there's also, notes talking about, why we as people in the 21st century still like see sinkholes and stuff like that, like where there's just hollow sections of the
Right.
earth that maybe just didn't quite fill in, and we're just built over an existing area. And you've got these air pockets and holes where it gobbles people up,
I mean,
swallows
yeah.
you up.
Why would they be there otherwise? Yeah, you'd think, why are there these huge holes sinking into the ground? Well, because there's stuff under it that's that was there before that is
Yeah.
also unstable.
Yeah, there is
Wow.
some here in the U.S. The Midwest. There's lots of these unearthed structures. Um, yeah, I mean, let's see,
Let me see.
Great Reset, posits that electors, slave
And
humanity
that's
for
another thing.
various
So all
means.
that technology, not only was it suppressed because people that are using, that sell you energy don't want you to know, but it was also buried.
It
You
says
know, and
suppressing a utopian past, dude.
well, because
That's
yeah,
not
they
a,
say they lived really peacefully. Like they weren't at war with anyone. They had free energy. They didn't have to,
dude. You know who it is. It's the lizards, dude. The lizard
the
people, dude.
reptilians.
The ones we talk.
They want their
You guys are
money.
just up to no good, man. I just tell you, it's probably their fault.
I mean, shoot, that's a deep rabbit hole to dive
Mm-hmm.
into, but they
Mm-hmm.
could connect. They could.
I bet you they do somewhere.
I bet you they do.
Yeah. So,
And
so Tartary or Tartaria seems to be like what it was like listed as on a lot of. Yeah, I mean, it's talking about like old maps in early. Or I'll say map builders instead of cartographers, just to double check.
just,
But
just to be sure.
yeah, but it does say that like it was absolutely listed, and it all was in the same area, the Tartary Empire, um, geographically. So I mean, that's crazy. There's a lot of that's a weird one because it's almost like there's a lot of evidence that really just kind of points to it being,
a
something
real
that
thing.
is part of society, or
Yeah.
part of ancient history and society.
History.
Yeah, ancient
Yeah,
history. But
I don't know how well, like, I don't know if it's accepted or not in the historic, the scholars or whatever. Like, I don't know if they are 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 with that or against that. I have no idea. I have zero clue. Uh, I don't even know if it's true or not. Like,
I feel like this would be like Indiana Jones level,
yeah,
like exploration. Like this would be something he would touch on,
yeah.
and Marcus
He,
Brody and Indy's
he
dad
finds
and stuff.
Tartaria,
Dude, those guys would fuck shit up and just get
dude.
down to the
That'd be
bottom of it,
sick.
figure out
That
some
would be
stuff.
sick.
Yeah,
But
that
that's
would
like
be super
modern
dope.
day Russia, though. They can't. They can't just be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna walk in and do some digging and shit." They're gonna be like, "No,
But
you're not."
what if they did like an indie, where he was like in like 50s Russia as like a KGB kind of spy or something, and then he's like
Because
investigating like Tartaria secrets.
I don't know if that would work nowadays.
That's true.
Too
True.
sophisticated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? I would watch a movie that was, if that was the subject of like an Indiana Jones style character is, you know, uh, whatever, going undercover to get Tartarian secrets or whatever,
Yeah.
because it's this or that. I would absolutely watch that. That sounds like a
Yeah.
good film.
Well, yeah, man, it just seems like such a yeah, you're right. It is such a larger subject where there's a lot of different like tree branches off of this just scrolling through some of the
Yeah.
subject matter. But
Uh,
like,
for those who don't know, Raimi made us like this crazy list of things that's like, it's like way too much to read, way too much to explain. But there's like mainstream history, historical versus scientific explanations. There's a bunch of stuff that architectural history, neoclassical, bunch of stuff.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gilded Age buildings. Yeah.
So what's interesting about the buildings thing, like I've been kind of reading back and forth between this. This is what caught my eye here was so grandiose buildings, neoclassical, Beaux Arts, and the Gilded Age were
Mm-hmm.
possibly built by Tartarians in terms of like that design and that aesthetic.
Right.
What it has also in that list is star forts. What are star forts? Is that like I've never even heard that term before, but I want to
Star
know
forts.
what it means.
Oh, you
Star
know what that
forts.
is? You know what those are, dude? The
Observatory?
No. So these are these masonry forts that are built in a star shape. So from you see the shape from the sky, but
Oh,
essentially it's like an island. It's a star fort, right?
okay. Yeah.
So it's like a there's a moat and it's star shaped, and each of the stars corners are like defense, areas. So whoever tries to invade from any angle is already covered by all the points.
Oh, snap.
By any of the points, there's already two people on, or whatever, two corners on you. That's Let me see. I'll show you
Dude,
an
that's
image of
like
it.
some G.I. Joe fort shit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You can't
Oh,
see it.
what?
Damn.
Oh, it looks like a ninja star.
Yeah, but that's an island or something, and that's a moat
Star
around it,
fort.
and there's a little bridge that goes in and out on both sides, and
That looks like that
bridges go up.
level in Super Mario 3 where you end up in the clouds and there's like that secret level. You go through
There you go.
some kind of Koopa castle
Star
like
fort.
that. Yeah, Star Fort. Damn, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So
Star Forts. I'm here for
supposedly
those.
they're responsible for all these crazy things. Yeah, that you don't really see anymore. You don't.
So maybe the structures aren't there, but the land, I guess that those like once inhabited, I guess is still on the map somewhere. But
Yeah, the land's still there. It's just Russia,
Star
or
Fort, yeah, Star Forts are gone.
yeah, I don't know where the Star Forts are. They go for show.
The gone. Um. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of crazy. I I'm kind of blown away by
Honestly.
this being like a totally missing piece of history.
Well, it's surprising that it's not something that's talked about more, and that's why it's like, well, if there's enough evidence to show that it's something that's real, and it would be talked about more. So it's like,
I wonder
what
what
is
would
it?
prevent anybody from talking about it. It's not like I
It's because of
mean
the
a
free
piece of
energy stuff. It's because of that.
I guess so. I guess so. If we're talking free energy stuff too, we should do like an episode on like Nikolai Tesla would be pretty cool.
Well,
He's got some trippy stuff he was working on that could be a cool app.
yeah, that would be a cool app actually.
Um,
We'll do that for sure. Actually, Nikola Tesla would be a great subject.
so the like energy laden city, like the utopian society, like based on free energy is probably why this was pushed down ultimately.
Yeah.
Whether it was our reptilian overlords or not, somebody pushed the info down over time.
Yeah, I mean,
God damn it!
oh, you said something wrong.
No, do we think there's any chance that there's any crossover between like Atlantis and this? Like, because we're talking
Well,
about like a lost civilization here, right? And
things
you
that
know
are
how like
buried.
you
Yeah.
know how things get like lost in translation, or like
Mhm.
after you tell a story so many generations down, it sort of gets messed up in the
The
telephone game, right?
game.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some truth to that. Like maybe that's a similar kind of a thing. Maybe Atlantis and this are just, after so many generations, it's kind of the same story, and they just kind of bifurcated and ended up with two versions
think
of the same
about it,
thing.
dude.
You
There's
think
kids.
this could almost be Atlantis, like just in description as well, as far as what we have heard just over time, the Atlantis people living under the sea kind of got distorted, but it was just this lost empire like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
Well-
buried over time.
Well,
It
I mean,
was.
there's versions of Atlantis where it's like they're living under the sea, but then there's also the version of Atlantis where it's
No.
like the city just fell
Sure.
into the sea.
It's sunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sunk.
Fell off
But-
into the earth, or
but then
fell off the
this,
earth.
They said they found it though, right? Like the area that most likely is. It's like
I
the
mean,
circular thing, which
I
looks like
think
a star fort, but it's circular.
right.
Forts,
Well,
Star
well,
Forts.
and then like what we were looking at, we found some article like this last week where there's some like dome moving around the ocean, on the bottom of the ocean. It's like moved 2 miles in
like
the last week or
dragging.
some crazy thing.
Yeah.
What?
We'll get to that in some other episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like I think the interesting thing was like this Tartaria thing is like it happened in the 1800s, so this is like only 200 years old.
Yeah, that's weird. Like that's not that far past removed. That's crazy.
So it's not like this is like 2,000 years old where it's kind of easy to get lost in history.
Yeah,
This is like
yeah.
modern recorded
It's not on a
history
biblical
kind of a thing
text.
here.
It-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in recent, quote unquote, recent history.
Oh
So-
my god.
So you got to work pretty hard to like erase that from the collective memory.
But I was gonna say,
Huh.
think about it. Like a lot of the kids nowadays that are like, I don't know, early 20s. I don't know. I guess early 20s. They don't even know what 9/11 was. Like and that was not that long ago at all.
Yeah.
And
True.
And they didn't have social media or like,
No-
it's like,
no,
yeah.
but it's just like they're like, what? What's that? And it's like,
Mhm.
what? That was 20, 25 years ago. Not even
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But look at that. That's how quickly it's like in a few generations, stuff is either gone or forgotten. If you're not talking about it, if you're not saying, "Hey, man, this happened on this day every year," or whatever,
Mhm.
you're never. It never happened.
Yeah.
It's not unless it's I don't know, in history somehow. I don't know.
God, the 1800s though. That is crazy. I guess in my head, like when the conversation started, I was picturing it so much further back in time. But
Yeah.
it makes way more sense. Like when we talk about unearthing these buildings and these structures, and the photos line up more with an era that is reminiscent of like cobblestone, roads and horses carrying like stuff through town into market and stuff.
Yeah. When you're talking about like a mud flood and like Siberia and Mongolia and stuff, it's very easy to think of things in like biblical terms, right? Like,
Yeah.
your brain just goes there. But no,
Genghis Khan and
this is like not that long ago.
yeah, it's like 400 to 200 years ago. Ish.
Yeah. That's why
400
like
crazy.
that's why there's like theories that like it's represented on our modern money as an example, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
if it had happened
symbolism's
2,000
there.
years ago, clearly that would not have been the same timetable. But
No, I know. That's why when you said that earlier too, I was like, "What the heck? Like, why would that even make
Right.
sense as depicted on a dollar bill?"
I even was second
in the
guessing myself
architecture and
after I
stuff.
said it, and then I went and like double checked it. But yeah, like in the notes that the thing came up, it was like 1800s. So
Yeah, when we first started talking about like this for this ep offline, and we were just getting excited, just going around the topic a little bit, and I started making just some images that we will then put on our Instagram. in my head, like when you had just said Tartaria, like I'm going, oh, Narnia plus Atlantis, so some warrior dude with a trident and like Wakanda energy powers. Like I pictured it as like this super fantastical society, but it's way
Well,
more reality.
it's
That
like
almost makes it more
Wakanda.
spooky,
It's like Wakanda, but like in reality, like
For sure.
they had advanced technology supposedly,
Steampunk Wakanda,
but like
kind of.
way more
Way
advanced. Yeah,
cooler, way cooler
like
than
other
steampunk.
people were I don't know.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were advanced.
They were doing things. Um I think like the reality of it though is like that being moved up further in my brain on like a timeline just in the history of the world. That seems like almost way scarier that it's been hidden. In my head, like I was thinking it was just this like fantastical, like biblical time where probably didn't even really happen, like in my head, like thinking about this thing. Now thinking about it and seeing the reality of like how much is buried and like how many structures are out there. And
Yeah,
all like the other thing too, like, we're talking about all of these structures being buried. Generally, like when they've dug down, like they're all buried kind of at the same level and like density of soil and like earth and sediment that's like being uncovered. A lot of that
yeah.
layering is very similar.
It's like
So it
12 feet of
points to
mud.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a full floor essentially, because
Yeah.
there's photos of places where they're standing at the doorway of the building. There's a big archway, whatever, like big double door, whatever, and they excavated that from the entrance down, and there's a whole nother entrance right below it
That's crazy.
that is almost identical with the windows and everything on the side, and they're just all buried because there's nothing in the door. Everything is just literally buried. They open it, kick it in, and it's destroyed. It's just
Dude.
So
One of my favorite things on this podcast is talking about this stuff and unearthing super cool potential metal band names.
oh,
And
what is it?
12 feet of mud.
12
It's
feet of
pretty
mud,
good.
dude. Oh my god.
We'll have to build a rating system for the rockability of some of these names, but
12 feet of
12
mud.
feet of mud's pretty good.
12 feet of mud's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another.
Um, God, what a crazy
Yeah.
subject, man. Totally blew my mind with this.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is that the maps go so far back. It says here, I'm reading an article off something. It says they're on world maps from the 13th century up until the 19th century, up until the 1800s.
What the heck? That's crazy.
Ancient people they're written off the history books. They're just written off. General label encompassing large area. Now it's just known as an area. Mongolia, parts of Afghanistan, China, Asia. Nomadic lifestyle. See, because they were associated with the Mongols.
That's right. That's
The
right.
Khans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of just like crazy. When you think about like other industries that were happening, again, like I'm kind of wowed by
Oh,
how up in the timeline this is. So when you start like thinking about like the other industries that might have seen this as like a threat, and that's kind of what I'm reading about too a little bit, is like, competition in the world that might have seen this as like a threat and a way to like tamp down or squish something that was onto something in terms of like energy production. And
that's what I'm saying. And you
that's
know what?
freaky.
There's some more recent photos. So in 1915, the World's Fair was held in San Francisco, and reportedly it was the largest display of Tartarian architecture
Hmm.
that was unveiled there. So without knowing it, thousands of visitors at the event were getting a glimpse inside the advanced culture erased from history. So there's a photo. I'm looking at a photo right now of this Tartarian architecture. It looks nuts. It looks like we got a lot of influence from them, but it looks crazy. Like you can literally look it up. 1915 San Francisco World's Fair Tartarian architecture or Tartarian building or whatever. You'll see
Yeah.
it. There's people walking by, and it's like this 4 or 5 story tall building, and it's really nice. I don't know. Looks like it's made of wood, cabin style. I don't know.
Sure.
Bombing campaigns, blah blah blah. Yeah. So yeah, scrubbed from the history books, Tartarian Empire, scrubbed from the public consciousness.
That is
Uh,
that just still blows me away. I'm still like freaked out and tweaked out by the fact that it wasn't that long ago, and somebody's clearly like tried to hide why this should be just wiped off the face of a map. And
I
that's a
mean,
scary term. Like it's truly wiped off the face of a map, you know?
literally. And it says here, some theorists even claim that the bombing campaigns of World War II were a cover up to destroy the last remaining evidence of the Lost Kingdom. So up until World War II, they
Dude,
were still
see, that is
trying to get rid
Indiana
of stuff.
Jones shit, man.
Yeah.
Get Dr. Jones on this
Why go all
ASAP.
that trouble? Theorists believe that many architectural marvels from the past attributed to the Tartarian Empire, that attributed to the Tartarian Empire, were not only aesthetically significant, but were also functionally crucial in the harnessing and distributing of free energy.
Wow.
The technology to harness such energy was far more advanced than what is publicly known today, and was widely used by the Tartarian Empire that is now claimed to have been lost, more specifically suppressed by those in power at the time at the fall of Tartaria. Why? To maintain control over energy resources and the
Dude.
populace, erase evidence of an alternative forms of governance, technology, and societal organization, ensuring their dominance remains unchallenged.
Dude.
Bastards.
Who was it? Was it like Big Cole? Did Big Cole take out Tartaria?
I'm telling you, big coal, big
Big,
electricity. I don't know.
yeah. Big
Big
Ben.
wind.
Uh, yeah. Uncle Ben flying that kite.
Yeah,
Ben
dude.
Franklin.
He's like calling you on the telephone, son.
Thomas Edison, Dirty Thomas had
You
his
know he
hands in
stole
this.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, this guy, we got to look this guy up.
you know he did.
Gotta go after.
But that's the theory, and I think Tesla was also like, I think Tesla ties into this a little bit because he was really interested in this tech, and he actually, it even says free energy hidden within use like ancient times. Tesla stole tech from ancient free energy tech even before. Okay, yeah. So there's like pictures and diagrams of like things that Tesla did next to the Tartarian stuff,
Wow.
and it's pretty cool. Marco
I wonder
Polo.
if there's any record of like visitations, like recorded visitations from somebody like a Tesla, or that's got to be wiped off the books too.
Well,
I would
he
surmise.
there is, so speaking of, so Marco Polo.
Oh, okay. I'm listening.
It says Marco Polo has also been accused of being in on the ruse, as his detailed accounts of life in Asia in the 13th century make no mention of the Great Wall. The Tartary contingent believes it was the Tartarian Empire that built the Great Wall to keep the Chinese out. Marco Polo made no mention of it because the majority of it had been built in the 16th century. Okay, but
Hmm.
details and facts aren't something devotees of Tartary that get in the way. Another fake blah blah blah. It says Napoleon and the Tsar of Russia, Alexander the First, fighting against the Tartarian Empire. No, 1812. Failed campaign of 1812. See, this is, I think these are just like stories, theories. Ornate architecture aside, melting pot, Tartaria. Yeah, anyway. Super cool. The
Dude,
architecture is really neat.
there are a few movies about Tartaria.
Oh,
I just did a little googling while we were discussing that last part there. And there's a handful of things. They don't look like they have any like the ties are kind of different. It almost looks like they move the timelines around a little bit, like and use it in more of a fantastical setting with some of these. But yeah, some of are kind of sci-fi based that use it as like a dystopian world. Return to Tartaria in 2019.
no way.
Um,
What is that on? Is that on a streaming platform?
let's see, it's on IMDb here. Let me click into this and see.
Just in case the listeners want to check it
Yeah,
out. I want to check it out, to be honest.
let's see. It says it is director Rolf Le Legu. I don't know.
What's the
It's
movie
hard.
called?
It sounds kind of French. Return to Tartaria 2019. And doesn't say where it's streaming at, but I see it
I
on
got it.
YouTube.
Oh,
But
The stream YouTube, yeah.
there's a few documentaries though. The Fall of Tartaria, by director Michael Finney.
Okay.
This was a 2024 documentary, which is kind of crazy.
Oh wow, recent.
Yeah, super recent. And then there's a really old one called The Voyage to Grand Tartary, by Jean-Charles Tachella, another French name that I'm not pronouncing very well. We need Rami on these, because he's got the
He's got the
silver tongue there. Yeah.
France.
Jean-Luc Badiou, Micheline Comte. Yeah, this one's a fictional movie though. And it says, after the murder of his wife Alexis, he is devastated. He withdraws all his savings and embarks on a journey to the Horizon of Tartary. So yeah, wow, Grand Voyage to Tartary. So this guy like has a major life change and goes to explore where that land once existed.
Sick.
Which is kind of dope.
Yeah. See, I want to watch all these.
Yeah, I kind of want to watch all these too. That one's actually got really decent ratings too. Wow.
All right. Write that one down.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I'm trying to think if we should dive a little deeper or call it, because I mean that's the gist of it, you know.
Yeah.
We kind of
yeah,
went through all the talking points for the most part.
Yeah.
It is a cool subject that goes pretty deep. And I actually this was a suggestion from one of our listeners.
Ooh, nice.
So he might like this episode, or he might be super pissed off that we didn't talk about specific things. So I apologize in advance.
He's just
if
going,
it's
you
the latter.
idiots! You're not
Yeah,
mentioning.
he's just turning it off. Fuck this. Yeah, so
Motherfuckers. That's dope. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was cool. We got some feedback from listeners and followers of the show on Instagram that sent in some ideas for stories and stuff. We literally put them all on a gigantic list. We've got a pretty sweet list compiled ourselves.
There's so much. There's so much. That's why I feel like we need to do more episodes so we can talk about more fun things and
dude, totally,
and just open the subjects a little bit.
Yeah, there's too many topics. How about real quick? What, just off the top of your head, what's another? It doesn't even have to be next week's episode because we already have next week's kind of in our minds what we're doing. But what's another topic you're like excited to dive into that might just either be a large one or something a little bit more self-contained?
I mean, there's a few. I mean, I kind of want to do like the Bigfoot Yeti thing a little bit. That was also a suggestion from someone.
Do you know about the? I know you know about it from the Marvel comic side, but do you know that it's also a real life thing? The Wendigo.
Oh,
you remember?
Yeah,
remember the Wendigo from like
I've heard
X-Men and
stories.
Wolverine and stuff, like Alpha Flight. Yeah,
yes.
There's a real life creature that's in its stature kind of the size of like a Bigfoot or abominable snow creature, but it's like carnivorous. It's like a carnivorous Bigfoot, essentially.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do an episode where we talk about those three.
Yeah. Yeah. They have some
Bigfoot,
similarities
Yeti,
there.
and Wendigo.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That sounds like something that might be fun. What about you? What are you thinking about? Besides next week's episode, what are you?
Man, I know there's some crazy ones. There's actually like it's part of a bigger subject, but it's also out in space. So I'm gonna take us back to space again because there's a lot of things that freak me out in space. But dude, have you heard about the black cube that travels like near to the sun that they have like recorded?
Like sucking out
video
plasma or
images.
something?
Yeah, it's some kind of like weird. They're not sure. I mean, dude, it could end as quickly as it's a glitch in some digital camera that was observing the sun or whatever. Most likely.
Do a whole episode on that.
Dude, I saw a reel though that had me convinced there's a giant black cube sucking energy from the sun though. So.
I saw that video that you're talking about, but again, I go back to something we talked about last week. I was talking about this alien video of this thing that's 3 times the size of Earth. I sent you the video, but it looks like crap. I saw a better one that I can't find.
Oh
But
shit.
that thing was like projecting something towards Earth. Earth looked like a
Just-
dot,
Yeah.
and the thing looked a
pinhead.
little bigger.
That's
And
crazy.
the thing was next to Mars doing
Oh
what
yeah,
it was
yeah,
doing
yeah,
to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember that video you sent. Yeah,
That
yeah,
video, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that shit
That is
is it's like galactic style.
that like
It's
that's
huge.
beyond like it's like the videos you see of like you know, like deep sea submarine exploration when some gigantic thing moves
Giant
by the
squid or
camera
something.
and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh my god. But that's on a
That scares
way
the crap out
bigger
of me.
galactic level though. That's almost like
Right.
too scary to think about. It's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
You're like,
It's
"Ugh."
terrifying. It's terrifying. You feel like
So
an ant.
nuts. Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah. That's crazy.
But check it out. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to explore this cube near the sun.
Yeah, let's do it. Dude.
We're gonna gleam the cube.
All right. Well, I guess that about does it for this episode. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Luke, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Let's find us at the pair_annoyed on Instagram.
All right. There
And
you go.
YouTube as well. We've got that
Yeah.
going, right?
Yeah, you can find me in the same place. Give us a follow, give us a like on some posts. We'll be posting about this episode once it airs. Subscribe to the YouTube if you like it. Talk about it with your friends if you want. No pressure. That's about it. Thank you, everyone. And
Yeah, we'll run some more polls and get some more like ideas going. Like I liked hearing people get excited and involved with that. So
yeah, that's the best part. People are like, "Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that?" I'm like, "Actually, yeah, we can."
Yeah, heck yeah.
Cool. So right on. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Stay weird.
Wow.
Ah.